One of the challenges with animating type is figuring out how you're going to bring your type onto the screen. One technique you can use is to use a track mat to reveal the type. I'm going to turn on my title and action safe by pressing apostrophe, and I will just type in a line of text. This is a line of text. And I am going to make sure in my paragraphs panel that this is aligned left. I will move it into position. I think it's a little bit big, so I'm going to just bring the size down a bit and put it into position. Somewhere, I think right around here is good. So at 20 frames, I'm going to put a keyframe for position, and then I'm going to go home. And instead of taking this off screen, as I usually would, I'm going to move it to the other side of the screen, and then I'm going to hide it using a track mat. So for the track mat, I'm just going to create a new solid. Doesn't really matter what color it is. I'm just going to guess at a size. We're going to change the size probably once we see it in the composition. So I've got 350 pixels by 50. Okay, so that's going to be quite a bit too small, so I'm going to just drag it into place, and I want it to be right at the center of my composition window. Now I've got it above my line of text, and with my line of type selected, I'm going to go to the track mat column. If your column isn't showing, make sure you click the second button down at the bottom. That will reveal this column. This stands for track mat. And I'm going to select the layer above, which is the blue solid. If I just choose alpha mat, it's actually going to reveal the type. But I want the opposite, so I'm going to choose alpha invert. So now the type is hidden. And as I play it, scrub it out, it becomes revealed. I'm going to just, on my position keyframe, make that an easy ease in, go into the graph editor and pull that out to slow it down, creates a more interesting slide in. I like that much better. I think I'll also shorten my work area so that this loops. Now let's say I wanted to have a soft edge on the track mat. I'm going to reveal the track mat. I'll make it a little bit larger, and then I'm going to use the rectangle tool to create a mask. So this will be a layer mask on top of my track mat. This one I can then add a feather to, and you could unlink the properties for a feather and just feather the horizontal. That might work. Again, I'm going to turn off the track mat. And I do want to mention that as soon as you create the track mat, this relationship is set up. First of all, the eyeball is turned off for the track mat, and then you see a symbol next to the blue here in the blue solid layer, and it's you've got a square with a solid circle in it. The one that is being masked, and remember, a track mat is just another form of masking. So the one that is being masked, in this case, the text layer, has a square with a dark circle in the middle. So I've added the soft mask, and as I pull it out, you can see that edge, you know, it's a little bit nicer the way it comes in. It's not just a hard edge. Now it can be fun to have type, one line comes on, goes to the left, another line comes on and goes to the right. So we could just copy these, Command D, and then I'm going to use a null object to move them down. So I'll come up here, take a null, and this is a technique I use all the time. If I have to move a couple of layers, I can just create a null object, make them both children of the null, and then move the null. So in this case, somewhere around here. And then you can get rid of the null, don't need it anymore. I am going to go into my layer and move my anchor points. This one is going to start over here, and then when it goes to the other side, it's actually going to appear out here. Now I do have to move my track mat over, so I'll hit position and bring the track mat over so that it's on this side now, and line it up with the middle of my composition. This mask is a little bit too far out to create the soft edge, so I'm going to drag the mask in a little bit and then move this over, and we'll see how that works. Turn off the eyeball for that layer, and let's see what happens. Okay, not bad. And of course you could offset these. Sometimes it's nice to have things come in at different times. Now I want to show you another way to use track mats with typography. In this case, we're going to make it appear that video is playing inside our text. So open up the footage folder and take the smoke footage and let's drag it to the new comp button down at the bottom of the project panel. That creates a new composition that is exactly the same parameters as our footage. Now this is a pretty long piece of footage, so I'm going to choose a part that I think is interesting, where there's some good contrast, maybe around in here, around 15 seconds, 20 seconds. I'll do 20 seconds. Option, left bracket to trim it. I'll hit the home key to go home, and then just the left bracket without the option key. That moves the beginning of my layer to the beginning of my composition. Now I'm just going to take my type tool and type the word smoke. Make it all uppercase. I think I want something a little bit heavier than this. This is Dito. It's one of my favorite fonts. But in order to see the video playing clearly inside my text, I want to use something that's heavier. Avenir, heavy. And I'll scale this up. Not scaling. I'm actually just increasing the pixel size. I'm going to center this text and then move it to the center. Now I'm going to use the text as the track mat. This will make it appear that the smoke footage is playing inside the smoke text. So I'll click on the footage, choose, in this case I'll choose an alpha matte for smoke, and now you can see that the smoke is playing inside the text. So any animation I do for the text, it will appear that the video is playing. So I think I will scale the text. Let's start with a scale. I'll start it down at maybe down here and have it come on up. And maybe it will start transparent. I'll move this 100% up a couple of frames, make this one 0, play it, and then before it gets all the way up, I will add a keyframe for the opacity and have it fade out as it reaches its maximum scale. So something like that. Now we could do, we could add effects to the smoke layer. I could add a blur. I'll add a Gaussian blur. Crank that up a bit. Feels a little bit more smoky. And perhaps I will add a little bit of a track animator. So come in here, do a tracking. I'll make it kind of a negative number to begin with, and then as it comes out, all the way out. Something like that. Let's see how that plays. I'll turn off my guides for the moment. Okay, nice. So I think you can see that there's a lot of creative possibilities using track mats in combination with typography. Okay, I want to try another one. Let's take, in the footage folder, there are a couple of videos. Let's take the seal video and drag it down to the new comp button at the bottom of the project panel. That creates a comp that's exactly the same size and resolution as the footage item. And we just scrub through this real fast. You see this cute little seal pops in, and then it's a little twist and turn and heads back out. Okay, so I want to have the word hello pop up from behind the grass, behind the seaweed, just as our little seal is coming in. So right around in here, I want hello to pop up. So I'm going to take my type tool and type in hello. I'll close up the tracking a little bit and make sure that I've got it centered and move it over around in here. So right at about 23. Now this right now is using the time code for the footage itself. So if I go back into my composition settings, change the start the time code at 0. So now we go over to the beginning. Now we're at 0. And so right here, so at about 5 seconds, I want hello to be in position. Then I'll go back a couple of seconds. Yeah, probably 1 second, and drag it down. Let's see how fast that is. Okay, that's not too bad. Maybe I'll go a little bit faster by shortening that up a bit. And then when it gets up to the top, I will ease it in with an easy ease in. Okay, I think that'll be okay. Now I'm going to use a solid layer to create the track mat. So again, Command Y. Color doesn't really matter. I'm going to make it comp size. Say OK. But I do need to see my video below it. So I'll just lower the opacity on this layer for a moment. I want to create a shape that matches the shape of this hill here, this seaweed. So I'm going to take my pen tool and I'll just be slightly on the inside. And really you don't need to do this much. You really only have to do it right where the hello is showing. Now I'll crank this up and then click on my hello and select, again this is going to be an alpha invert for the blue solid. So the blue solid, the eyeball on the blue solid goes off, and then we get the square with the solid white dot, and then this one with the dark dot in it. So that indicates this is a track mat. If this stayed on, you'd be seeing the track mat. So it automatically gets shut off. So let's see how that looks if I play it from here. Okay, that's not bad. And if I go slowly, I think I could use some feather on the mask, a little more feather if I, not sure if I put any on. Let's see, no. So let's put like a 4 pixel feather and see if that softens it up a little bit. I think right, I'm going to just right there, I'm going to make it a little bit softer. Like that. This makes it a little bit nicer. I might change the opacity or the color of hello so that it's not so harsh. So I could just change the color maybe. Maybe I'll choose a color from inside the photo. It's a little bit of a blue on it. Now what would be really cool, I think, is if the seal came in front of the hello. And for that we have to do rotoscoping. After Effects does have a rotoscoping tool, a roto brush, which works pretty well if there's enough contrast. This looks like it might be a little bit of a problem because parts of the seal are very close in value to the background. So we could do this manually also. It's just a little time consuming, but I'll duplicate the seal, Command D, and drag it up to the top of the stack. So now that completely hides my typography. So right around in here is where the hello is going to show up. So right around here I have to start with a mask on the seal. So I'm going to put, this is called rotoscoping because we're going to have to do it pretty much a frame at a time until the seal goes back into the water. So you can see it can be, to do it well, can be very time consuming if you have to do it by hand. Put a little bit of a feather on it. I'm going to trim the layer so it doesn't show until the seal is about to come in. I'll trim my type layer as well so that it doesn't appear before the video of the seal. Now I can see I've got the mask on the seal showing up too soon. That's what's taking this bite out of the hello. So I need to move that over in here. So let me take my selection tool. I can just double click on the mask, and that will select all of them. Then I can move this over, and then as it moves into frame, I have to move it again. So you have to go frame by frame on this. Sometimes you can go a few frames at a time, and if it depends on how much the perspective is changing, how much the seal is changing. So it looks like I might have a little bit of a problem here. So I'm going to take my selection tool, deselect, and then reselect and adjust this. This is something, you know, I should do probably zoomed in, and to do it well, you have to be very, very careful. Otherwise, it kind of flickers and looks weird. Zoom out and see what it looks like if we just play it. Shorten my work area so we can see a quick preview. Okay, I think that's enough to give you the idea. I'm going to move seal up into my comps folder. Stay organized. So hopefully you can see how useful track mats can be. Track mats are a very powerful tool with lots of creative possibilities.